This is the world of company secretaries. On this channel, you can watch interviews with company secretaries across the world. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon. Can you tell us how important are the days of training and how did it help you?
So, certainly days of training are is very, very important, no doubt about it. And it's very important that you do it from, a place which can give you that kind of exposure. Because what I realized during my training is, we write exams. But to relate to, what you're studying and why is it that you're doing and how to do it, right? It is different. The experience
Yes.
that you get in training is completely different. In fact, we all study notice of general meeting, we all study notice of board meeting, but every company has its own way of doing things. And then, although you've studied, you've drafted and things like that for your examination, when you come to the real world and do it, it does feel slightly different. So I won't say it's absolutely unrelated, but I'm saying that, your practical experience is always very different. So I would say if you have an opportunity, you should do it in a place which keeps you really busy, because that's when you're able to capture and grasp as much as is possible.
Okay, great. So after your training, can you tell us about your corporate days? Like even like what companies did you go to and the kind of work there? If you could share a little bit about that.
Okay. So immediately after Britannia, I joined a company called Essilor, which is into manufacturing of spectacle lenses, right? They are into, and it was a very brief stint. And immediately after Essilor, I moved to a consulting company called JCSS.
Yes.
I was there for a couple of years, and then I for a brief period I moved to Netherlands. So then I had to quit then, and then when I came back, I joined Xerox. That's and yeah. So Xerox was again until JCSS, I had a very core secretarial role. So I was only into CS, but my journey with like a dual role in legal and secretarial started when I joined Xerox. So that's where I would handle both, legal and secretarial. That's where I got introduced to contracts as well. And most of the companies that I worked with were private companies. So obviously, that dual role kind of justifies over there. And then I moved on to, I stayed with Xerox for almost 4 or 5 years, and then I moved to a company called IMS Health, which is now called IQVIA. And I worked with them in India for 3 years, and I moved here. I got an internal transfer and moved over here, and I was supporting them from here for a couple of years. And then moved away from there, pursued my CPA, and then joined a company here locally, which is where I am right now.
So when you first took CS just after 12th, did you think that one day you'll work for Xerox or then think of doing CPA? And how did the CPA come about and what was the idea behind it?
So, when I took up CS, whether I knew I'd be working, I didn't know I'd be working for such and such a company, but I knew I'd be doing great things. Not because of myself, but because of the kind of course. Because all along, I firmly believed that a CS course would really take me to places. So, that is a belief that has stayed with me for a very long time. So I did always imagine myself, when I dreamt of what I'd be when I qualify, I always imagined myself to be working in, well-known companies. So
so when you moved to the US, what were the opportunities there? Because traditionally what we call as a company secretary here in India or some of the other Commonwealth countries also, I'm not too sure whether a similar concept is there in the US. So how did you make that shift and how was that career decision for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, moving to the US was more of a family decision because my husband had to move out of India, and so I accompanied him.
Okay.
But it was a challenge initially because I knew that US was a place which would not recognize my CS qualification as much as some other Asian companies, or even as a matter of fact, UK or Australia, right? Like
Yes.
in Australia and UK, you do have exchange programs where you write a couple of papers, get exemption, and then get qualified as a corporate secretary or chartered secretary, whatever they call it. And
Correct.
same with few other Asian companies. But over here, you do have a role of a corporate secretary, but that is traditionally performed by lawyers or attorneys
Okay.
who are qualified to practice law here. And I knew that I would probably not be considered for that kind of a role, because over here the legal system is kind of complicated. They don't take chances, with recruiting someone who probably is not familiar with the US laws. So that is where I did spend some time researching on, what allied field I could get into. What would be something which is relating to this, where I could use what knowledge and skills that I've gained, and at the same time, pursue a career over here. So uh, from my research, I mean, I did extensive research. I did speak to people. I reached out to various institutes over here and things like that.
Okay.
So what I was looking for is at least one of the things that I have done in my life, because it's like you always played multiple roles, right? When I say dual roles in organizations, it's like because you kind of handled both company secretary and legal, right? If there was a merger, you would pitch in and assist a merger. If there was funds from abroad, you will play a role there. If it is posh compliance, you'll play a role there. If it is contracts, you'll play a role. So because we've kind of, we are tuned, company secretaries are kind of tuned to handle multiple roles, right? I was looking for at least one of them, to sync with at least one of them.
Okay.
So I explored compliance as one of the areas. Fraud investigation is one of the ideas. I explored, doing a law here as one of the ideas.
Okay.
So things like that. But I felt that in terms of the time taken and also in terms of the effort, taken, I would probably be able to complete a CPA. And CPA would be allied. So if I wanted to get into compliance roles,
correct,
it would kind of help. And traditionally also over here, contracts, either they are handled by attorneys or by CPAs.
Okay.
So, I felt that it would kind of open up various areas for me to get into. And that's how I considered doing a CPA. And of course, I also ended up doing a few certifications when I decided that, contracts is one area that has a very good potential over here. I also did something called as a certified contracts management practitioner here with an association called IACCM.
Okay.
So that's how I arrived at CPA and this.
No, yeah, I'll just after ask the question, now I'll tell the context. This is basically because there are a lot of students or people who are pursuing or planning to pursue. They have a very limited idea about the global opportunities, or they say that, okay, CS is not recognized here or there. But this question was with the context that because of your knowledge and experience of CS in India, that helped you to probably take CPA or think about the commercial contracts practitioner. And so basically in 12th standard, I'm sure you did not know that one day you may end up in the US, in Pennsylvania, and you took up CS. But during the journey, you changed the career path, and it was not completely unconnected to what you had done earlier, but you can always add branches and new qualification. So that was the context. So students need not worry about what will happen far ahead in their future, because whatever you do, you can always use it in the best way possible, like you have. So that was
no, that's
nice
very
to know.
true. Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, right? That's very true, because one of the best things that I also believe is about the CS course is, is the varied or the variety of subjects that you're introduced to as a student.
True.
So if you look at the kind of subjects, right, literally you're studying mergers and acquisitions, you're studying secretarial, you're studying contract law, you're studying IT law. When I was studying, we were studying World Trade Organization and things like that. But at that point in time, I was wondering how this could be connected to CS. Why is it that we are studying? Are we a jack of all and master of none? And things like that have crossed my mind. Yeah. But I realized that, students should use this as an opportunity to see what subject they are inclined towards and what they like, so that they can shape their career also in that manner.
Yeah, because like you were saying, now we have subjects like financial management, strategic management, which traditionally, let's say an MBA from a big B school would do, that is strategic management and consulting. Then you have all the law subjects which we can think of, right from economic laws, CPC, IPC, everything. So you're introduced to everything. And in fact, this I feel personally as the biggest asset of the CS course, because you're not really specializing when you're studying, but it gives you the opportunity to specialize in, let's say, 30-40 areas when you decide to. So that is the special part. And you're one of the best examples where for different reasons you had to move to the US, and a traditional ICSI CS is not recognized there, but you didn't have to start from zero. You just had to do some additional courses, which is again related to your prior knowledge and experience. So that's the perfect example. I'm sure students will take a leaf out of that.